Mhm. Welcome to the Mind Fog Podcast. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with me. I am uber grateful you're here. My name is Wanu Alishe, and sometimes I do go by Amazing Soul. FCK stands for fun, compassion, and kindness. Now, on the Mindfuck podcast, what we essentially talk about is nervous system regulation, how to safely build trust between our brains and our body, and also how to start to reconnect with our inner child so we can actually start to really enjoy being human. Now, that leads me to the next part of the show where I read a list, and the title of the list is called Reminders to Being Human. Now, the intention behind reading this list before the actual episode is to remind myself, and also in the hopes of reminding you on your journey, my friend. All right. Reminders to being human. Have fun along the journey. Show yourself compassion. Be kind to others. Being complex and being simple can hold true in the same breath. Stay curious. Hold space for pauses. Hold space for not knowing. Never underestimate the power of silence. Nature has a lot of wisdom. Pay attention. There is power in we than I. If nothing else makes sense, come back to love. Pain is our greatest teacher. And the very last one, never underestimate your ripple of existence. Yay! All right, now let's get into the fun part of the show. Okay, my friend, I want you to picture something simple. It's not a big moment, just a regular evening. Let's just say you're sitting on your bed and you have your phone in your hand and you just finished talking to someone. Maybe it's someone you just met. Maybe it's someone you've been seeing for a little while, and everything looks fine on the surface. But your body feels familiar. Your body doesn't feel excited. Your body also doesn't feel calm either. It's just that same feeling, that slight tension in your chest, that overthinking starting to creep in, and you're telling yourself, okay, why did they respond to me like that? Did I say too much? Are they pulling away from me? Now, here's the part that used to confuse the fuck out of me for a long time. You pause for a second and you realize to yourself, I have felt this before, not with this person, but with someone else in the past and someone else before that. So basically, different faces, different personalities, but the same fucking feeling, right? I want to talk to you about that moment today on the podcast because for the longest time on my journey, I thought I was just choosing men wrong. I thought maybe I just keep picking the wrong people. Maybe I need to be smarter about who I was dating. Or maybe I needed better standards. That's what I kept telling myself for a while. But that wasn't actually the full truth of what was going on. Not even close. You see, my friend, if I could sit with that version of me who was still in that mental loop years ago, the version of me sitting on that bed and my phone in my hand and my heart slightly tight, I wouldn't start by telling her to choose better partners. No, I will sit next to her and say this: Hey, Wanu, this isn't random. It's simply patterns, right? With compassion and kindness. Now, let's slow this down a bit because this shows up in very normal, everyday ways, right? It's not always obvious. It doesn't, it looks like this, for example. You meet someone who is interesting and probably they're not fully available, but not completely distant either. Just enough to keep you curious, just enough to keep you trying, right? It looks like waiting for a text message back and checking your phone more times than you want to admit. It looks like over explaining yourself, trying to make sure you are understood, right? It could also look like feeling deeply connected to that person one moment and the next moment you're confused as fuck. And somewhere in all of that, there's a quiet thought in your mind and you're asking yourself, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I keep repeating the same pattern in different people? I used to ask that question a lot, right? And if I'm being completely honest with you, my friend, there was a lot of frustration in there because a part of me knew I want something different for my life. I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to keep meeting the same people, but feeling the same feeling. But my reality, though, kept giving me the same fucking experience. And this is where things started to really shift for me, right? It wasn't overnight, but it was very, very slow. And it was through a lot of sitting with myself, a lot of uncomfortable realization, understanding my patterns, my natural patterns in my life, understanding my childhood stories. And I started to notice it wasn't just about the person. No, it was about the feeling because I even knew who they really were. Like my body had already decided something. It was the same pattern of having emotionally unavailable um parents, right? Not right or wrong, it was just is. And I realized that in the partners I was attracting, right? And I was like, oh, this person reminds me of emotional inconsistency from childhood, right? It was more like your body relaxes into something that feels known, even if it doesn't feel good. I don't know if that makes sense. So let me say that again slowly, because this was a very big one for me. Your body doesn't choose what is best. Your body chooses what is familiar. Your body doesn't choose what is best for you. Your body chooses what is familiar. And familiarity sometimes can feel like love, even when it doesn't feel good, right? I remember one time I was talking to this person, and on paper, like time where I used to have like a list, they were everything I thought I wanted in a partner. I mean, kind, funny, confident, everything. And there were those moments, like very small ones, where I felt like I had to reach for them, like I had to get their attention. I had to try so hard to be seen in the relationship. And instead of seeing that clearly, I leaned more. I tried harder. I showed up more. And I kept telling myself, this is what connection feels like, right? But my body was saying a different story. My body felt the same way it did years ago when I was a child, waiting to be loved, hoping to be seen, trying to be validated, right? That's when it hit me. This wasn't new. No, this feeling right here wasn't new. It's old from when I was a child. And if I could go back to those early years of when I was a child, 0 to 7, that's the part where your brain is just absorbing everything from your environment. Your brain is not questioning anything, and it's just your brain is taking it as this is how life works. It's not right or wrong, it's just how your brain wires itself. And what did I experience? What did I learn about love? What did I learn about connection? That's what your brain is taking in those first 7 years. And for me, during those time in my life, there were moments of emotional distance. There were moments where I had to constantly adjust myself to survive. There were moments where I learned if I show up in a certain way, I might get attention to survive as a child. So my body stored that as memory, not as trauma language, not as a story, as a feeling. So years later into my adulthood, when I meet someone who feels slightly out of reach, my body goes, oh, I know this feeling. This feels familiar as fuck. This is love. And here's the part I had to sit with. Very uncomfortable. Your body doesn't say, this is unhealthy. No, your body doesn't do that. Your body says, this feels like home. And that's where the pattern comes from, right? It's not that you're broken. No, 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 no. That's not what's going on. It's not even that you're doing something wrong. No, that's not what's going on. It's that your body is repeating what it learned as love as a child during those formative years of 0 to 7. And I wish someone had told me that earlier in a way I could actually feel it, not just understand it logically. That's what's happening because for a long time in my life, I understood the pattern intellectually. I really did, but I was still in it. I still kept repeating the same thing. And I would say things like, I know I deserve better. I know I deserve better in my life. I know this isn't right for me. But I couldn't leave. I wanted to, but my body couldn't leave because it was familiar. And I'll keep getting pulled to the same type of partners. And I used to get so frustrated because it felt like my mind and my body were never on the same team. Right? And my mind was like, we're going to choose differently this time. I know better. We're going to choose differently. My body was like, no, girl, this ain't how it's going to work. This feels familiar. This feels like love. We're going to stay in this relationship that we don't feel seen. So what do you do with that? You know, if I'm sitting with you right now, my friend, not as someone who has figured everything out in life, but as someone who has been in that exact same loop as you are, I wouldn't tell you to force yourself to choose differently. No, because if you do that, it reinforces the pattern. Because forcing yourself doesn't change the familiarity. No. What really actually started shifting things for me in my life was just noticing when the pattern and the feeling comes up. I know that sounds too fucking simple. I know, but it wasn't easy. Mm-mm. I mean, noticing that feeling in real time. For example, let's just say you're talking to someone, right? And you feel that slight anxiety come up in your chest area, that slight reaching come up in your body. And instead of pushing that feeling away, right, or distracting yourself, you actually take a moment to pause. And you say to yourself, okay, this feeling, it feels familiar, and I'm noticing it. This is not, the intention is not to judge the feeling. The intention is not try to fix it. It's just noticing what you're feeling in that moment. And I used to literally sit there and feel it in my chest. I mean, feel the tightness, feel that pull to the familiar feeling. I used to feel it. And instead of double texting more or over explaining myself or trying to secure the connection or trying to hold tight to that feeling, I would just sit. Sometimes I will sit for like 30 seconds, sometimes longer if I can, right? And of course, because it's new, it felt uncomfortable as fuck because my body was used to reacting. And over time, though, something started to change for me, right? The feeling did not disappear overnight, no, but my relationship with the feeling started to shift, right? I wasn't automatically acting from that feeling anymore. And this is very important to note because the pattern isn't just who you're attracted to. No, the pattern is how you respond to the feeling. Do you see, my friend? The feeling. Okay, let me give you another everyday example, right? Let's just say you're on a date, all right? And they're sitting across from you and everything is going well, you know, but you notice something. They're not asking you so many questions. They're not trying to get to know you better, right? It sounds like an old pattern, right? You've experienced this before. And your brain starts to fill in the space. Then you start to talk more, trying to keep the energy going. Now, new awareness, you notice the urge to fill the space and the conversation, and you pause. You let there be silence. And in that silence, you start to see more clearly. Do you see, my friend? Not from your mind trying to figure things out or trying to protect you, but from your body actually registering a new lived experience. And you're like, okay, wait, this doesn't feel balanced. I'm giving more than I'm receiving. That's how you start to shift the pattern. It's not by forcing new choices in your life, but by creating space between the feeling and the reaction. It gets smaller and smaller. I'm not going to lie to you, my friend. Ooh, this takes time. It takes a lot of goddamn patience because your body has been practicing this pattern right from childhood and you're an adult now. It's like muscle memory. It's going to take time to unlearn that behavior and that pattern. So you're not going to overwrite that pattern overnight, no. But you can start to give your body, though, new lived experiences. Small ones, small, repeatable ones. Like, for example, not responding immediately to that text message or not over explaining yourself. You said what you said, end of story. Or letting someone show you who they really are without trying to manage the connection. People are people. Now, here's something else I had to sit with on my journey. That wasn't easy for me to hear, right? As an ex people pleaser, that was a bit hard because sometimes we are not just attracted to the person. No, we are attached to the feeling of trying. It's less about that other person and more about the feeling the other person is giving you, the chase, the effort, the hope. That's what we're attracted to. And that's what love felt like for me at some point, right? So when something feels easy, calm, consistent, right? It can feel unfamiliar because you're not used to it. Even boring, you're not used to it. And there's another layer of that pattern I want to talk about. Learning how to sit with something that feels different. Oof, that's a skill. You know, I remember, speaking to someone on my journey who was actually consistent. They showed up. They were clear on their intentions. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. And my body did not know what to do with that. It was unfamiliar. There was no anxiety. There was no second guessing. And a part of me was like, wait. Is something missing here? right? It's new, but nothing was missing. I just wasn't used to that feeling. It was just unfamiliar. That's all. My brain was getting used to that experience. And that's where the real work is, really. Not just recognizing the pattern you've been repeating all these years, but staying present when something different in your life shows up. Not abandoning yourself. Because your body might try to pull you back into what it knows. It's just trying to keep you safe. It's not right or wrong, it just is. And if you're not aware of that, you will think in your brain, this isn't it. Right? When really it's just new. It's just a new experience. That's it. So if I could sit with you right now, my friend, like right now in this moment as you're listening to me, whether you're talking to someone new, getting to know somebody else, or you're thinking about someone, or just reflecting on your patterns and relationships in your life, I will say this to you. Start paying attention to the feeling, not just the person, the feeling that the person brings, like the feeling. And notice what your body does. Does it feel calm? Does that feeling feel calm? Or does it feel like you have to work for something? Do you feel like you can be 100% yourself around this person? Or does it feel like you have to constantly adjust yourself just a little when you're around this person? And when you notice those things, don't rush to fix them. No, just stay. Stay. That's where the work is. And that's where real change starts to happen, right? It's not in forcing yourself to choose different partners, no, but in becoming aware of what you've been choosing from. Awareness, understanding, compassion for yourself. And over time, as you build that awareness like a muscle, as you start to sit with those feelings, you can start to create small pauses instead of automatic reactions to the same patterns. Your body starts to learn something new. That's when real change happens. And your body starts to realize, I don't have to repeat this anymore because you have shown your body it is safe. And slowly, your choices begin to change. Oof. That's the sweet spot. Not because you force them to. Your body's already intelligent as fuck. You just got to trust it. But because your body is no longer running the same old pattern, because you stayed with yourself. You stayed. And that, my friend, is a different kind of freedom. It's not the kind where everything suddenly becomes perfect in your life. No. But the kind where you start to feel you're actually choosing instead of repeating patterns that don't even serve you. So if you're in that space right now, my friend, where you're asking yourself, damn, why does this keep happening? Just know this. There's nothing random about this. Nothing. If you're willing to pay attention. And there's also nothing permanent about it either. No. And the shift, the real shift, starts smaller than you think. Really small. It starts in moments where, you know, you tell yourself, let's just say you're on your bed and you have your phone in your hand and you feel that familiar feeling come up. And instead of reacting to that text message from that person because they brought up a familiar feeling, you pause just for a second and you notice what's going on in your body. And you're like, okay, this feeling again. I'm noticing it. That moment right there, my friend, that's where everything begins to change. That's the power of awareness. That's the power of understanding your patterns. As always, my friend, I want to thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with me. I want to thank you so much for listening. And I'm sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Thank you.